Causes the atrium to contract, and when that contracts, it squeezes blood through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. And then the very next thing is the AV node sends electric signals around the ventricles, causing those to contract. So when those contract, you can see how the blood, if you have a shape like this and you squeeze it, the blood will want to shoot upwards, right? So the blood will shoot up the pulmonary trunk, but see, it also could go back up into the right atrium. So that's why we have a valve there, because when the ventricle contracts, the valve starts getting pushed up, but the papillary muscles that are attached to the chordae, those contract at the same time as the ventricles, and that's what pulls the valve down to stay shut. So when the ventricles contract, you have the papillary muscles simultaneously contracting to keep those valves shut. And so that's why blood only goes up the pulmonary trunk from the right ventricle. Okay. Hopefully.
Oh, well, you did.
What does the PA mean? Pulmonary
artery.
Yeah, so it goes up the pulmonary trunk, and then that splits into the two pulmonary arteries, which go to the lung. And so again, at least in my sections, I tried making a point that you see here, for example, the arteries are blue and the veins are going to be red. And so you don't want to worry about the color, you want to know the direction they're going with relation to the heart. So because these are going away from the heart, they're going to be arteries. These are coming back to the heart from the lungs, those are veins. So when the arteries go to the lungs, they're deoxygenated, you have gas exchange so the blood picks up oxygen.
And then it's oxygenated.
Right, they circle back to the heart and they both dump into the back of the left atrium.
Wait, I thought that the veins were deoxygenated blood.
So yeah, this is why it's tricky. So when you're looking with the lungs, it's the opposite. So deoxygenated blood has to get oxygenated somehow, so it has to be sent to the lungs. And so the arteries are going to be deoxygenated because remember, all this deoxygenated blood is coming from your tissue, and your heart wants to get it reoxygenated. So your heart actually has to send that blood back out to the lungs. So when it gets oxygenated, the oxygenated blood comes in and dumps in the back of the left atrium. So that's when you see those two holes on the back of the atrium. So those are the pulmonary veins. And then again, when you have the atrial contractions, that's what pushes the blood. So this again is oxygenated blood through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle. And then when you have the simultaneous ventricular contractions, it shoots blood up the aorta. And again, you have the bicuspid valve being pulled down, so that's staying shut. Then blood goes up the aorta, and then this is again is where you have the three different routes it could go. So remember, you have three different ways blood could come into the right atrium, and then you have three different ways that it could go out from the aorta. So one of them is you're going to have a series of splits up here, and those are just going to go to the top half of the body or the thoracic part of the body. You'll also have a split for the coronary artery. So the coronary arteries just surround the heart so that it gives itself blood. And then the third route is it could just keep going down to the abdominal cavity. And so that we call this portion of it the abdominal aorta. So those are the three. And then remember, when you go down far enough, you have gas exchange at the tissues, and then when you have gas exchange, it goes from oxygenated to deoxygenated, and then that goes all the way back to the heart and continues that whole.
So it's only 6 steps in reality.
So remember also, too, if you're discussing this on the exam, to not forget about the semilunar valves. So like we said, the tricuspid and bicuspid valve, they help keep blood from going back into the atria. These help stop blood from going backwards into the ventricles.
The semilunar?
Yep, so this one is in the pulmonary trunk. So you can see blood's being pumped out that way. So the valve keeps blood from going back this way. And same with the aorta, so the blood's going out through the aorta. That valve, it's usually actually it would be right underneath the pulmonary trunk, but we drew it up there. But it keeps blood from going back into the left ventricle.
So the pulmonary keeps it from going down to the right and the aortic to the left.